evolution, a deliberate yet subliminal process for all but humankind. We cannot wait.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
He's on the move. Let's move.
Coming up, a team of British scientists has invented a new method that could revolutionise the way viruses are detected. The technique using quartz crystals to significantly speed up the identifying of viral and bacterial infections. Bridging the gap between high-level planning and low-level tasks is the key to developing intelligent robots that can operate in a real-time setting. New architecture is being evaluated that uses intelligent software that will match the robot's low-level task capability to its high-level planning functions. And a safe, relatively simple operation, a procedure which takes 2 minutes and costs as little as £15. Cataract occurs when the lens of the eye becomes cloudy, preventing the passage of light, leading to total blindness. The surgeon takes out the clouded lens and replaces it with a plastic one, permanently restoring sight. We celebrate over 50 years of the British charity Sightsavers. Automation. It's become so integrated into our society that it's difficult to imagine life without it. All around us, automated systems and robotic systems perform tasks and provide services with efficiency and precision. But if we're ever to free ourselves from laborious or dangerous tasks, we must develop smarter and more sophisticated systems, not only to make life easier and to expand our technological horizons, but to create opportunities. Opportunities here on Earth, on the space station, and on other planets. Making this technological growth a reality requires an automation and robotics infrastructure where theories can be advanced and new ideas developed. NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas, is home to just such a center. Through it, NASA offers its extensive experience with teleoperated systems in space, development experience in robotic technology, and know-how in extending human work capacity in hostile environments. At its Automation and Robotics Division, highly experienced engineers use this expertise to develop, adapt, and refine robotic systems. The unique facilities are highly sought after by research and engineering firms from around the globe for the purpose of joint ventures, as well as information exchanges. Many of the division's capabilities are best showcased through its efforts to meet the automation and robotic needs for the International Space Station. At the Robotic Systems Evaluation Lab, engineers are adapting existing tele-robotic technology to meet space station needs. This undersea robot has been adapted to emulate one of the space station's many dexterous manipulators. By emulating this key component, designers are able to run high-fidelity simulations on other station hardware that must interact with it. Doing so, very specific functions can be developed here and ultimately be used in space. This system is used to verify interfaces on space station flight hardware. To ensure that work sites in the laboratory are faithful to space station specifications, precise computer models of the work site environment are put through kinematic analysis. With multiple views of the robot in motion, designers can analyze the assembly sequence for the space station and can even predict hindrances at the actual work site. After the final design is proposed, kinematic analysis is used again to verify accuracy right down to visual access and placements of handholds. The Space Centre's need for tele-robotic systems will also include dual-armed remote manipulators to capitalise on existing human skills. This robot is called DART, standing for Dexterous Anthropomorphic Robotic Testbed, and is an example of component technology integrated to a systems level. Located in the Dexterous Robotics Lab, DART is a uniquely flexible testbed for fine-tuning the balance between the human and the tele-robotic in the performance of skilled manipulation tasks. Robotic prehensile hands can be remarkably human-like. But the space station doesn't only need tele-controlled robots. It needs designs to have a type of artificial intelligence. For a robot to be mobile and intelligent, it must be able to maneuver autonomously in a dynamic environment. This robot is the brainchild of engineers in the Robotics Systems Technology branch. Through an integrated system that includes various sensors and a laser rangefinder, the robot is able to navigate by landmarks while sensing and reacting to obstacles in its path. In the Mobile Robotics Lab, the ability to perform other low-level tasks is added to a similar mobile robot. Engineers in this lab must create the robot's thought processes, which are essentially checklists of intermediate steps the robot must perform to complete a specific task. Bridging the gap between high-level planning and low-level tasks is the key to developing intelligent robots that can operate in a real-time setting. At the Automation and Robotics Division, new architecture is being evaluated that uses intelligent software that will match the robot's low-level task capability to its high-level planning functions. Here in the Intelligent Systems Lab, scheduling tools currently on the market are evaluated for usefulness in space applications. Appropriate tools can then be customized to meet the specific requirements of specific projects. Even the Johnson Space Centre's systems engineering facility has performed with improved efficiency using an existing scheduling tool adapted to meet the facility's needs. As the technology advances, the possibility of using intelligent robotic systems in the space station becomes more of a reality. But a range of systems is required in space. Intelligence embedded software is already allowing ground controllers to keep a watchful eye on many of the space shuttle systems. This is one of several applications developed that uses intelligent software and real-time telemetry from the orbiter to monitor a range of systems, including the giant robotic arm. It's part of a suite of decision support tools which allows ground controllers to receive up-to-date status of shuttle systems with just a glance. The capabilities are not limited to the development of intelligent monitoring systems, however. This failure environment analysis tool helps engineers conduct risk assessments and failure analysis on a range of system designs. Not only can it predict what might have caused a particular failure, it can also determine system vulnerabilities and function as an expert diagnostic tool. This simulation is another valuable robotic design tool. It enables designers to model systems and operations using libraries of predefined software to predict performance. Naturally, the space station's needs are not limited to automated systems. It will also require people. An able crew is a crew that can effectively use its equipment, and that comes with practice. With powerful computer workstations, NASA's engineers and animators can create detailed, state-of-the-art graphics. These graphics are combined with software that models the behavior of a robotic system. As such, they're the basis of many of NASA's high-fidelity simulators used for task evaluation by crew members. Simulations in the virtual reality environment are also useful for enhancing crew performance of a specific task. Time spent training in a virtual environment helped astronauts train for the Hubble servicing mission. Through these efforts to provide the technology needed for the space station, NASA's Automated and Robotics Division has added substantially to its expertise. Much of this expertise is on display in the Johnson Center's Building 9. Originally conceived as a national robotics resource for remote applications, it's become a state-of-the-art testbed for prototype technology development. Among its features is the 6 degree of freedom dynamic test system. This dynamic table is used for assembly analysis. Its remarkable flexibility allows an operator to manipulate a functionally accurate model of the shuttle arm as a part of real-time berthing evaluations. This dual-armed robotic system, together with a remote ground control simulator, allows designers to simulate ground-based operations of a space-based robot. With access via the information superhighway, any number of users across the world can access the facility to evaluate new technologies and to develop procedures. The ground control station is equipped with predictive display technology that will eventually fill the time delay that occurs when Earthbound operators are controlling robots in space. Building 9 is also home to a working model of the shuttle's arm, with which NASA's astronauts and engineers have become highly skilled in telerobotic training and operations. With its cutting-edge facilities, highly experienced engineers and substantial operating budget, NASA is well placed to be fostering mutually advantageous partnerships from robotics companies around the world. In a sense, partnerships that were born in space.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
It's mid-morning in the West African state of Gambia, but for 50-year-old Mamadou Sowe, it might as well be night. Mamadou is one of the world's 50 million blind people. He's also one of the 70% whose blindness could be cured or prevented in the first place. Mamadou says he was a weaver before he developed cataracts and went blind. Now, like so many fellow sufferers, he can't work or take care of himself and is dependent on others. Diseases like cataract, river blindness, vitamin A deficiency and trachoma can all be prevented or treated using relatively inexpensive methods. This is where the work of Sight Savers International is making a huge difference. It works in scores of countries in Africa, Asia and the Caribbean, screening local people for eye problems, distributing preventative medicine and conducting sight-saving operations. For the last 5 years, the Bassi Eye Unit in eastern Gambia has offered Mamadou and thousands of others hope. Announcements on local radio bring them to regular eye camps run by Sight Savers International. Travelling eye surgeons carry out cataract operations here. Over a period of 3 days, Mamadou and hundreds of others will put themselves in the hands of sightsavers. Cataract is the most common cause of blindness worldwide, and 90% of sufferers live in the developing world. Sightsavers is trying to reach them, offering a cheap, simple operation that can restore their sight. 50 years ago, blindness was widespread amongst the people of Western Africa, a situation the developed world knew little about. Isolated communities were scattered about where all of the people were blind. They really thought that the whole world was blind, but this phenomenon stretched across 7 countries. Their plight was brought to the world attention by a blind Englishman, Sir John Williamson, and his wife, who spent several years living in Ghanaian villages whose entire populations were blind and knew nothing else. A major cause of such widespread disability was onchocerciasis, or river blindness, a disease whose legacy is visible today. It was Sir John's research 25 years ago that led to river blindness being brought under control. He discovered that the disease was caught near the fertile land bordering Africa's rivers, also the breeding grounds for a small black fly called the simulium. The tiny insects bite like mosquitoes, and when they do, they release into the skin of the victim a parasite which eventually destroys the optic nerve. The first thing was to destroy the flies, and so they set up with the government a system of delivering insecticide into the rivers. For 20 years, the society did this thing on its own, and then gradually the thing became an international movement. Today, 80 million people are still at risk from river blindness, but thanks to the work pioneered and carried out by sightsavers, the disease can now be prevented. An annual dose of a new drug called mectizan kills the parasites. If taken over a period of 10 years, it breaks the transmission cycle of the disease. Over the decades, Sightsavers has targeted all preventable blindness. It discovered that thousands of children in the developing world go blind through a combination of malnutrition, measles and diarrhea, suffering that could be prevented through a diet rich in vitamin A. As well as providing education and training for the incurably blind, the charity supplied entire districts with eye tests, diagnosis and treatment. Throughout, the goal has been to empower local people to take control, thereby increasing the economic value of their land. Sir John and his wife established an organisation for the blind and also helped to establish an organisation of blind people to get the leadership of the blind people themselves, which was an enormous advantage not only in the practicality of it, but also in bringing it to public attention. To convince a skeptical world that its radical approach was right, Sightsavers organised an assault on Africa's highest peak, Mount Kilimanjaro, in 1969. The climbers were 5 blind African men. Their successful challenge did more than anything else to show governments and the world what blind people could achieve. 30 years later, another group of blind and visually impaired youngsters followed in their footsteps. This time, the challenge was to raise money for another special cause. Over a period of 2 years, Sightsavers aims to treat 400,000 people like these at the Vivekananda Eye Hospital in West Bengal. They're queuing to register for sight-restoring cataract operations. It's part of Sightsavers' way of marking its own 50th anniversary and of contributing to a powerful campaign called Vision 2020, mounted by the World Health Organization and non-governmental organizations, which aims to eliminate curable blindness over the next 2 decades. The operation is a safe, relatively simple one, a procedure which takes 2 minutes and costs as little as £15. Cataract occurs when the lens of the eye becomes cloudy, preventing the passage of light and leading to total blindness. The surgeon takes out the clouded lens and replaces it with a plastic one, permanently restoring sight. Over the past 50 years, Such operations and other pioneering work has enabled Sightsavers to restore sight to 4 million people and treated 45 million others. Sir John Wilson, the man who galvanized the world to tackle blindness, died in 1999. For him, such a remarkable achievement still wasn't enough. There are 450 million disabled people in the world, and at least half that disability is preventable, not just blindness, but deafness, orthopedic handicap, mental handicap. And so, gradually from that experience, his organisation is building a world effort which could change the pattern of avoidable disability across the world in the next few decades. For Mamadou, though, just this moment is enough. His vision is restored and will improve over the coming weeks as his eye begins to heal. After returning home the same day, determined to return to his weaving as soon as possible, he walked around the village unaided, delighting in his ability to see again. For Mamadou, Sightsavers has provided a new lease of life and the priceless gift of sight.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
For 3 years, scientists at Cambridge University Department of Chemistry have been working on this. Tiny quartz crystals less than 1 centimetre thick have antibodies bound onto their surface. Samples of viruses are then put on the crystal before it's vibrated electronically. At some point they break off and the sound they make is recorded on computer. This allows scientists to identify and monitor the strength and type of virus. Position of the peak shows the strength of the interaction. The mass of laboratory equipment has already been slimmed down to a box the size of a video recorder. With time, they hope to develop handheld sets that could revolutionize the time it takes to identify viral infections and to change the way people are diagnosed. A company's been set up to commercialize the technology. So far, it's only been tested under laboratory conditions. The next stage is to develop the system further and undertake clinical trials in hospitals. It's hoped the fully refined system will help in the fight against HIV and hepatitis B.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Is on the move. Let's move.